What's up, guys? Nightingale here, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be covering the 9.29 balance patch preview. We're here live on Twitch, about to go over the developer notes for this 8-week cycle of heroes. So go ahead and Twitch chat, say hello to YouTube. YouTube, say hello to Twitch chat. YouTube's been very nice and been saying hello to you guys, so give them a good hello there, and let's jump on with this. Before we jump in, I do want to say this. I'm tired of their crap, and I don't agree with the direction that their balance team is going in and what they're trying to do and how they're balancing stuff. And I think that the entire department needs to be fired, and they need to bring in an entirely new team and completely get rid of any upper management or whatever is behind what they're doing. They need to stop. What they're doing is not healthy for the game. There is so much that they've been doing wrong with their balance adjustments, and I know some of you will literally, I need to keep this as PG as possible, but some of you will just roll over because that next content creator's like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, or it's your favorite unit getting buffed. And you know what? I'm all for stuff like that. I'm happy that you guys want your units, your favorite units buffed and stuff like this, but there is a lot going on that I look at around with the game in terms of mechanics that they are completely ignoring, and their no nerf policy is quite horrible, and it needs to change. And the only way we can change this as a community is to rally around the idea of, if you're tired of this and you want to see actual change, stop rolling over every time they throw you a small little bone. So, for me, we're going to go through this. I'm going to read this off. We might answer some questions at the end. I'm not 100% sure. But let's jump into it and talk about the heroes today that are getting changed. So, I guess Straze needed a buff because somebody out there complained about Straze. Ravi doesn't really need a buff. She needs a better set. Kayron's getting a buff for whatever reason. Two of the newer RGBs are getting a buff today, Aria and Taeyou. Brand new units are getting buffed, and Roana, a fantastic Soul Weaver, is getting a buff. Blaze Dingo, Fire Khawana, and Hasol is getting a buff. Artifacts, we've got Magic for Friends, didn't know that needed a buff. And Unfading Memories, I can kind of justify this one. So, let's jump in and see what BS is in store for us. And, I mean, spoilers, I've already read this, I already know. But, alright, so, Straze totally needed a buff. He can go out and wipe tanks. I didn't know an AoE unit that can one-shot stuff, and that is arguably probably one of the better boss ML5s needed a buff. But hey, here's what they did. So again, we don't give a crap about the before Awaken skills. We only care about the after Awaken skill because nobody's gonna run a unit unawakened. Star Extinction awakened after. Attacks all enemy with a sword. Penetrates the defense on the target with the highest max HP by 30%. When the caster's attack is greater than the penetration target's attack, penetration rate increased proportional to the difference, up to a maximum of 100%. Grants invincibility to the caster for 1 turn. Cannot trigger a counterattack. Penetration rate condition alleviated. Penetration condition alleviated. Make suffering, deficiency, or a problem less severe. What? What? Okay, so here's what they're saying about it. Straze is a hero who can exert overwhelming power if his attack is greater than the enemy. Siri, shut up. He is strong when conditions are met, but was difficult to utilize his full strength in PvP. Therefore, Star Extinction will be improved to not trigger a counterattack, and its conditions to reach maximum penetration rate will also be alleviated. We will expect him to contain enemies with higher health and battle more efficiently against enemies who utilize counterattacks. Now, I've had a wonderful command here on my chat for quite a long time, and they all know it as !full counter. Now today, I am going to help you all understand what this literally means now. Now keep in mind, this was a 1 in 100 move, but let's just watch this real quick. So, Straze S3'd my team.
Guess not.
And then proceeds to, here, because you missed it. You can just make sure he hit all 4 units. And then Meru procs, stripped. And then stripped. And then Luna said, bye, Felicia.
The damage.
So, with that being said, they no longer want you to be able to do that. That is a random mechanic that just happened to get off. Now, yes, I ended up winning that fight later on, but, you know, that's the kind of stuff they don't want to happen. Now, like I said, I just happened to luck sack, and not only was I able to strip the attack buff, I also ended up getting his immortality, which he gets anyway at the beginning of his S3. So what's the big deal if I counterattack? Why do you have to take this out? Oh wait, you don't want a mage who can strip that to potentially screw over Straze. So now you just get to come out and swing this big AoE and have 0 consequences for nuking something you're already able to just completely blow up. I lost my unit. It went kaboom. But I also was able to completely take him out of the fight because I luck sacked 2 counters at the same time. So this cannot trigger counterattack stuff is slowly slipping in, and it's taking mechanics away from the game. This wasn't an issue for him because he's probably going to break most everything anyway. In the general sense, he's a tank buster. And then here's the stupid thing, half the group of people that have him are using him on one-shots where this doesn't even matter anyway. So, why did Straze out of all ML5s need a buff? Why? This makes no sense. This is just, you must be trying to run Straze soon and you want him to be able to sell more. That's gotta be the only reason, because as far as I'm concerned, Straze was one of probably the better ML5s out there for damage. Can absolutely blow stuff up. Okay, now, the penetration rate condition alleviated. I don't understand what they're trying to do with this. Their balance patches need to put in a definition. You know how I just hit Google just to double check? Because I knew what alleviated meant, but you know, some of you may not understand what alleviated meant. So this way you could look at the definition. Why did we need his pen to be easier? The whole point, it was the wording of the skill is what's the issue. It's not that the condition is easier. All it took was you needed to have higher attack than Straze and he wouldn't pen your defense. So why are we alleviating the penetration rate condition when it's literally the same thing written in here? If when the caster's attack is greater than the penetration target's attack, penetration rate increases proportional to the maximum of 100%. So I guess what they're trying to do is it doesn't really matter where the difference is. You're gonna probably hit the 100% a lot easier, and things are going to go boom when they shouldn't have. But okay, this is fine. This is only the beginning of this dumpster fire. Okay, next up, I can see where people want Ravi to have a buff. But let's go into it and read it, and we'll talk about where everything sits. So, Demon's Blood starts the first battle with 40 fighting spirit. Okay, so she's got a little ramp up to her. Increases the attack and the effectiveness by 15%, up from 10. When they attack or are attacked, this can only stack up to 5 times. Cool. So it's just, she's now going to be doing a little more effectiveness and a little more damage. Nice. At the moment the caster is attacked, increases combat readiness by 15% and gains 5 fighting spirit. You could walked away right there and probably called this a buff. But wait, there's more. Devil Drive Awakened after, let's see here. So, brutally attacks, so this is the S2, or the S3. Brutally attacks all enemies with a 75% chance to stun for 1 turn, decreasing combat readiness of stun enemies by 100%. Penetrates the target's defense by 50%. Damage dealt, decreased. Well, yeah, no duh you're gonna have to decrease the damage because you just gave her 50% def pen. Again, here we go into the same mechanic stuff that I've been trying to talk to you guys about for several balance patches. This is what I'm trying to warn you guys, the community, about, but for some reason, some people like to laugh at this and laugh it off that this isn't a big deal. Well, typically those players play fast and they want to blow stuff up instantaneously. So they don't really care. They look at this as an absolute win. Insert Hulk meme. But here's the issue. If you keep giving units in every balance patch, 50% pen here, 30% pen here, 70% pen here, full 100% pen here. Why do we have a stat called defense anyway? Every patch cannot devalue our defense-based stat, or else there's nothing left to... That's how you counter damage, is HP and defense. But because Ha Young exists, what does this matter anyway to us? Because I can't build super high HP because she's just gonna come around and clap my cheeks anyway because... Well, she's basically turn 1. If you've got high HP, you're dead. Colorblind and everything. So there are things that are coming up that are kind of an issue. Let's see why they justify this. Ravi will be an adjustment to gain a certain amount of fighting spirit at the start of the first battle so that she can use Devil Drive more frequently. Moreover, her skill, Devil Drive, will be changed to penetrate some half of the target's defense so that she is more effective against enemies with high defense. This defense penetration will be added to the skill. Its attack scaling will be decreased, but the damage dealt will be increased. In addition, increased effectiveness of her passive, Devil's Blood, will also be increased. In line with the balance adjustments, Ravi's exclusive equipment option 2 will be adjusted as follows. So instead of has a 35% chance to burn when using Slaughter, has a 70% chance to make the enemy unable to be buffed for 1 turn when using Slaughter. So, and it's just explaining why that they want her to have a higher chance of doing this. So, we're looking at Ravi going, you could have stopped at the Devil's Blood thing, but you kept going, and now you're just another unit out there devaluing defense. Sure, we've got a few defense-heavy units. Nothing wrong with that. We have some thicker units out here that this is Fire Ravi. This doesn't fix what the issue was with Fire Ravi. This just is now making another issue. All right, Kayron. Void Slash. Attacks with a sword with a 50% chance to decrease hit for 1 turn. Or decrease hit chance for 1 turn. Dealing damage proportional to the caster's lost health. When this skill is used, if it was not triggered by a dual attack and the caster has a buff, this skill changes into an attack that targets all enemies. The attack does not trigger a dual attack. Okay, so they're basically wanting it to be, if you've got a buff on top of you, the skill is not used as a dual attack, so like a Conquer Lilith scenario, it's gonna now go to AoE. Okay. Interesting. Little weird, but interesting. Immortal Will, after. Grants immortality and increased evasion for 1 turn. When the caster receives lethal damage, receives lethal damage and resets skill cooldown of Apocalypse, can only be activated once every 6 turns. So now they're giving him an evasion buff on top of his immortality buff, which most of us are going to ignore Kayron anyway, because he's probably, you're not going to get that immortality off of him. So why are we giving him evasion? Just to make sure that we can't kill the immortal. I don't see why we needed the increased evasion here. He's gonna be immortal to begin with. And yeah, I don't get it. Why? Cool, but why? Kayron is a hero who seeks opportunities to turn the table by inflicting great damage after surviving with immortality, which is triggered by his passive skill, Immortal Will. However, he was easily neutralized when his immortality was dispelled and killed afterward, or debuffed, which made it difficult for him to inflict damage on enemies. Immortal Will be adjusted to grant evasion when receiving lethal damage, so he has a chance to resist the immortality, dispel, and debuffs. In addition, Void Slash will become an attack that targets all enemies if it was not triggered by a dual attack. So the only thing I'm seeing here is people complaining because they're too cheap to build an ER version. If you have high ER on Kayron, what does it matter? You're not stripping it anyway. And you're sure as heck not stripping it now with the evasion chance. Literally, this just made it even worse. So why? Like, I mean, cool, but why? This didn't need to be here. You could have done something else. Most people run the ER version, and the people who don't, well, that's just their thing. Okay, so let's get into the newer units. And my ears are acting up because the pressure is changing around here. Okay. Alright, so Shadow Call. Attacks 2 enemies with shadows, with a 50% chance to decrease hit chance for 1 turn. When it's not the caster's turn, effect chance increases by 20%. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's defense, and they're increasing the overall damage dealt. So what they're saying is if it's a counterattack, she's now going to have 70% chance to decrease hit chance. Okay. I mean, this isn't horrible, but why 6 months after she's released? All right. So, Guide of Darkness. This is her passive. Increases critical hit chance by 30%. After using a skill when focus is full, consumes all focus and activates Dark Shadow Phantom. Big snake. Dark Shadow Phantom attacks all enemies, dispelling 2 buffs and decreasing combat readiness by 30%. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's defense. The damage dealt increases proportional. Literally, they put it in there twice. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's defense. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's defense. Smilegate, do you have people proofread your stuff? Okay. So, what's the big thing that changed here? She's losing her crit damage rate up. This, or her crit damage ramp, I should say. This is a little concerning because that was kind of one of the neat things about her kit was the ramping crit damage, but I get what they're saying. They want consistent damage. But why are we at this? Why is that priority right now that we need Aria to do more damage on her S2 right now in the game? Cool. Also, she's getting her barrier strength increased. Nice. I'm assuming because it's how they're scaling this. So let's see what they say and why they're doing this. Aria is a hero who specializes in casting debuffs on enemies, inflicting damage with counter, and protecting allies. Through these adjustments, her damage, debuff effects, and survivability will be increased to fulfill her role more efficiently. First, Shadow Call will have increased chance to decrease the hit chance of enemies if not triggered during her turn. It will also have its barrier strength increase. Her passive skill, Guide of Darkness, will no longer grant increased critical hit damage as her health decreases. Instead, we increase the damage dealt on her skills, Shadow's Call and Dark Shadow, Phantom, so that she inflicts high damage more consistently without losing health. My question is why can't we have things that get scarier as they get lower health? We have Crow. How many people out there are going, please, let me kill this Crow before the S3 gets off? Why not, oh god, I need to kill Aria before she gets her S2 off? I mean, I'm okay with it, but I mean, it depends on how much this damage, because 50% crit damage is a lot of damage, okay? That's a lot of damage. That scales way more than several thousand, or more than several hundred attack. So, what are we going to be looking at damage number-wise? How big of a damage increase is this to give up 50 crit damage on a unit? This is either going to hit like an absolute nuke, or they just slightly increase the damage, and it's going to end up being a nerf in the end. Soon to find out. Have no idea. All right, it's your favorite fire boy, Taeyou. You. So just remember, this is not an fire unit, guys. He's an ice unit. He might be red. He might have fire skills. He might look like a fire unit. But say it with me. Chat, say this with me. YouTube, say this with me. He's an ice unit. But he's fire. Alright, so Tornado Sweep. After. Attacks all enemies, dispelling all buffs. I'm sorry, all buffs. Okay. Not 2 anymore, all buffs. Increasing skill cooldowns of the target with the highest attack by 1 turn. Speed of the caster for 2 turns when the target is enraged and ignores effect resistance. So, pretty much, undispellable buffs are becoming more and more value. Alright. So, Conqueror Lilius still can't be dispelled because Vigor is an undispellable buff. So, those things still exist. So, they're basically making it to where those types of buffs are a necessary, going to be more necessary type stuff, if this is the direction they're willing to go. Especially giving Ignore FRS strips. But to be fair, he doesn't have a ton of value overall, so I can see why they're trying to overtune him to make it something usable, because they didn't make money with this unit the first time around, so obviously they're going, when we rerun him, we want him to be of value. Alright. Oh wait, there's an Awakening. Oh wait, I didn't even read that. Dispels all buffs and grants caster for 2 turns. It's the same thing. Ignores effect resistance. It's literally the same thing. Twice. Oh, wait, no? It's literally the same thing. Dispels all buffs, increases skill cooldowns with the target with the highest attack by 1 turn twice. And then grants increased attack and speed. I see. That's probably the word I missed. All right, moving on. So it's giving speed now. Cool. Gotta go fast. Taeyou will be adjusted to contain enemies who use non-attack skills more efficiently. Tornado Sweep will be changed to dispel all buffs and also grant increased speed to the caster for 2 turns after using the skill. In particular, he will be able to contain enemies more efficiently as Tornado Sweep will ignore effective resistance when he will be enraged due to the enemy using a non-attack skill. So, in short, it does nothing against Conquer Lilius, and just kill him before you use a non-attack skill. Got it. Or just use a non-attack skill and don't give a crap. Because there is a unit called Selene out there, and well, no. Chances are that wouldn't be the highest attacking unit. All right, next up, Roana, because Roana totally needed a buff, guys. So, Roana, Noble Rekos after. With a Grace of Rekos, recovers health of all enemies and grants a barrier and revive for 2 turns. Amount recovered and barrier strength increased, proportional to the caster's max health. So, grants a barrier. So, she's basically giving a barrier to everybody, and they're making her barrier do more. But why? She's good as she is. Roana's skill, Noble Rekos, will be adjusted to grant barriers to all allies. When Awaken, it will grant barriers and recover the health of all allies, so she can support allies more efficiently. But I mean, Roana was one of the greats as it is already. But whatever. Alright. It's, once again, feels like a waste. This is their target priorities for, one of their target priorities for balance patches. All right, Blaze Dingo. So, Divine Punishment Awakened. Attacks all enemies with a giant Infinity Gauntlet with a 75% chance to snap defense for 2 turns. Before healing the ally with the lowest health, a critical hit activates punishment again as against a random enemy. The amount recovered increased proportional to the damage dealt. So your boy getting his Infinity Gauntlet polished up to now do 75% chance to death break for 2 turns. All right. So an already super stat heavy unit's gonna need even more stats. Great. So Blaze Dingo was originally designed to use as an offensive Soul Weaver. Why don't you just release a real offensive Soul Weaver at this point, give him full damage stats, no healing abilities? Why is a Soul Weaver trying to do damage anyway? Why do we need an offensive damage dealing Soul Weaver in the game? First off, let's just talk about this. Why do we need an offensive Soul Weaver? Why can't they just heal, provide buffs, provide support? Why in the world do they need to do damage as well? He don't need it. We don't need that. Okay, but let's just... However, it was difficult to utilize him, no crap, because having him in a high setting operating requirements. To strengthen his weaknesses, his skill, Divine Punishment, will be adjusted to have a chance to decrease defense. I mean... Nobody's going to see Blaze Dingo still. Nobody's going to be out there running this. Because guess what? There's a bazillion Dispellers now that do it automatically. So, why? But sure, add a Soul Weaver that does damage. Khawana, the 4-star here. So, casual introduction. Attacks all enemies with a Flame Guardian before increasing attack of all allies for 2 turns. Grants skill nullifier once to fire elemental allies. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's speed. Cool. It's a 4-star unit, so we'll just take it for point blank. All right, attacks the enemy. Rough Welcome. Attacks the enemy with a Flame Guardian, dispelling 2 buffs before stunning for 1 turn. Increases combat readiness of fire elemental allies by 20%. Damage dealt increased proportional to the caster's speed. I mean, this just feels like a waste of time. But sure. Khawana is a hero who can support allies and inflict debuffs or damage on enemies. However, it was difficult to utilize her because the conditions for supporting allies were complex. With the upcoming changes, her skill, Casual Introduction and Rough Welcome, will grant supporting effects to allies if they're fire elemental heroes. We can expect Khawana to be used in various team combinations with these changes. No, because that's not how this game works. Because you're basically bringing in a unit to then give said other fire heroes these benefits when they're probably not running a mono fire team. This isn't a game where we get to run that kind of stuff because of the mass amount of units we have that can counter those types of team comps. So why on earth are you thinking that this is going to help bring Khawana to the fight? What is your logic behind balancing this unit? Sure, they're wanting to bring in and they want to work on these units, but I don't get this. I get why this was done, but this looks like this was a unit you should have reworked, not just buffed. Like, okay, you obviously see that this doesn't work. Maybe next time. Well, okay. But you're not going to run... This is just taking another unit out of your team. You're never going to see anybody run this. All right. Hasol. So she's getting a pretty significant change. All right, so it looks like everything is changing with her. So Swift Cut attacks the enemy. Oh, they're removing when used on the caster's turn. Inflicts 500 damage regardless of whether attack hits. Again, this doesn't really do anything. It's 500 fixed damage. Don't count on that. And healing is decreased. Blade of Vengeance after. So when an ally suffers a counterattack, decreases damage suffered by 25%. When one or more damage reductions effect is granted, only the strongest is applied. After an enemy counterattacks, increases combat readiness of the caster by 25% and increases the fixed damage of Swift Cut and Punishing Strike by 1,000. The fixed damage increase effect can stack up to 4 times. So 1,000, 2,000. So you get 4,000. Plus you're gonna get the 500. Wait, are they saying it goes up on all of them? No, it's going up to 1,000. So yeah, you can get a 4,000 flat attack, or pure attack hit. Okay. All right. So we're still working on that. Now, for Punishing Strike, attacks all enemies with a secret skill, additionally inflicts 100 or 500 fixed damage, regardless of whether the attack hits. Damage dealt or increases defense of all allies and grants a barrier to the caster for 3 turns. Damage dealt and barrier strength increase proportional to the caster's max health. After suffering a counterattack, decreases skill cooldowns by 1 turn. So, and they're increasing the skill cooldown by 1 because they're allowing it to be decreased. So that's how they're trying to get around this. I don't really see the point of them trying to make more fixed damaged units because it's you Rimuru or you don't. Like, 500 or even 4,000 isn't going to kill a lot. I mean, it's an A for effort, but are you going to see people trying to run this in the beginning? Sure. Is it going to fade off really, really quick? Yeah. So let's see what they end up having to say about this. Hasol is a character that characterized by her skill Swift Cut, which granted a cumulative increased fixed damage when the enemy counterattacks. However, the effect can only be applied to Swift Cut, which made her difficult to exert influence in a battle. She still won't have influence because you don't beta test this crap. To strengthen her weakness, fixed damage will be applied to her skill, Punishing Strike, and the increased fixed damage of Blade of Vengeance will be applied to all of her skills. In addition, Blade of Vengeance will decrease damage suffered from counterattacks on an ally so that she can effectively respond to enemies who use counterattacks. Lastly, Punishing Strike, which used to increase her speed, will now grant Barrier instead to provide her viability, aka making her another target. And if If an enemy counterattacks, the cooldown of Punishing Strike will decrease by 1 turn so that she can use the skill more rapidly. However, considering the overall direction of her adjustment, healing from Swift Cut, damage dealt by Punishing Strike, and increased combat readiness of Blade of Vengeance will be slightly decreased. Skill cooldown of Punishing Strike will also be increased by 1 turn. It's a 3-star unit who's probably got bad stats to begin with, so are you really going to have the survivability to anyway to take on half of this crap? Probably not. Does she need a specialty change? Yeah. That should have happened before this, honestly. Really. Like, specialty change her, then give her this type of buff. Then we might actually see something happen here. Alright, so now for probably one of the more concerning buffs here is Magic for Friends. Like I said, I didn't know Mercedes needed a buff. Last time I checked, Mercedes could eat somebody's face off with their counter abilities. But let's go deeper. Decreases damage suffered from a critical hit by 30%. When more than one damage reduction effect is granted, only the strongest effect is applied. If an ally attacks when it's not the caster's turn, has a 15% chance to activate Dimensional Rupture. Dimensional Rupture can only be activated once every 2 turns. The skill effect of this artifact will not decrease, or the skill effect of this artifact does not increase when enhanced. Will not activate upon death. So what they're now saying is Dimensional Rupture, if you one-tap that Fire Mercedes, will not activate if you kill her. So I never noticed this. I never knew this was a thing, because my Mercedes just happened to always blow stuff up, or I just never saw it because, you know, I didn't pay attention to that. Being 100% real there. But sure, now she's going to take 5% less damage from a critical hit, or 5% less damage suffered. So, great, you're making her tankier. But why was this necessary to Magic for Friends? Has nobody ever seen a counter Mercedes with an attack buff decimate teams in 3 turns? That's right, the counter procs, Magic for Friend procs, and the attack buff procs. There's normally not a team left standing there when that third attack finally hits. So cool, we're making this even more broken than it should be, but hey, it is what it is. So their logic behind this is Mercedes exclusive artifact Magic for Friends will be adjusted to increase Mercedes' viability. Didn't know she wasn't viable. The amount of damage suffered increased viability by decreasing amount suffered from a critical hit. Moreover, to fix the issue of Dimensional Rupture from Magic for Friends is activated before dying. The actual skill effect is not used, but only increased its cooldown. It will no longer activate upon death. So basically she can come back and she still has access to it. I mean, let's be real. When Mercedes comes back, she's not living to take that next turn unless you have a Soul Weaver to heal that up significantly. That Mercedes, once killed, is probably dying the next turn anyway. So this is like a moot point, but okay, we'll roll with it. It is a change for the better, but that Mercedes is not living after she's rezzed from that. No. All right. So Diane's artifact, Unfading Memories, increases effect resistance by 25% and heals all allies by 5 to 10% after using a non-attack skill. So just in case you were wondering, that is 10% at max limit break, plus 30. Unfading Memories is an artifact that heals all allies when used by a Soul Weaver who uses non-attack skills frequently. However, it is less utilized than other Soul Weaver artifacts. Therefore, we added effect resistance, which is a useful stat for Diane and other Soul Weavers, and also increased its healing effect. We have, okay, I'll read that in a minute. So, here's the thing. Most people don't use this because Diane needs effect resistance at this point. Most people don't use this because the heal's not good enough AoE to make a difference. The heal is the issue, not the stat. if this healed 15 to 20%, sure. 10 to 15%, maybe even that. Because that's an AoE heal. That means everybody's getting healed 10 to 15%. But it's 25 F-res, sure. Now you can just make her faster. You can get her a little bit bulkier, or you can just get 25% more F-res. Oh wait, it doesn't matter because Taeyou can ignore F-res strips anyway. Oh, and wait, there's other ignore F-res soul burns out there. So what does the effect resistance matter anyway? I mean, you know, it's not like that there's totally not a disparity between effectiveness and effect resistances is already. So why do we even bother with the stat to begin with? All right, so before we jump on, they have an announcement here that we will cover. So we also have an announcement regarding the changed schedule for balance adjustments and adding new exclusive equipments. We often had issues where the balance adjustments in World Arena season were mismatched, and there was a balance adjustment right before the season end. To solve this issue, we changed the next balance adjustment schedule to have our next balance adjustment on 10/27, which is 4 weeks earlier than our regular schedule. Starting on 10/27, we will conduct a balance adjustment every 8 weeks to prevent the balance adjustment from proceeding at a time when World Arena season is intermittent, which will improve the season, letting it proceed more smoothly. Not really. It doesn't ever really matter because 90% of the crap y'all change doesn't affect anything. Accordingly, with the original planned, exclusive equipment, which was originally planned to be added on 10/27, will be added a month later. Will be added on 11/24 instead. We ask for your understanding so that this is to carefully check the shift of the meta caused by regular balance adjustments when we update the exclusive equipments accordingly. Starting 11/24, exclusive equipments will be added again every 8 weeks. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that exclusive equipments changed the meta this drastically. That it would affect the balance in the force. What? What data shows you that the exclusive equipments change this? I'm sorry, 90% of the units that everybody seems to draft don't use exclusive equipments anyway, and if they do, it's very few of them. So what? What on earth? All right, but cool. These are the proposed balance adjustments improvements for the schedule for the September 29th. Each of the adventure side story orbits. Yeah, we don't care. All right, we're done. All right, I'll give you guys 5 minutes. I'll answer 5 minutes of questions here, and I'm ending this. It's a clown fiesta. Let me go ahead and turn follower only mode off, so those people who don't want to click the follow button can't ask their questions because they just don't want to follow for whatever reason. All right, follower only's off. We've got 4 minutes and 43 seconds on the clock. At Nightingale 1176. I'll answer your questions in the order they're received, and yeah. So yeah, yet another balance of patch adjustment that is tone deaf. Also, we're still missing several of those survey units that you also diligently voted on. Why did Magic for Friends get a change when, let's see here. I could just go here, and I can go to, like right here, and I click like this button, like right here. And, there's this artifact right here that was voted like almost 5-1. 5-1 voted for, and we still haven't had it upgraded. But we've upgraded Maru's artifact, we've upgraded, we've done Deanne's artifact. We've had Mort's artifact, I think, or Alencia's artifact. We've had Ervalin's artifact that didn't need a buff, really. I mean, it kind of did, but where's this one sitting? I'm waiting for this buff. The number one voted artifact from that stupid survey still hasn't been buffed. Just saying. Counter ER Kayron, best build for him now. With that AoE, maybe. He's got to have a buff on top of him for him to activate it. So, I mean, if you can keep a buff on top of him, sure. Is Taeyou viable now? Honestly, I think it'll be the same issue. The getting rid of the buffs isn't the issue. I don't think that's ever been part of the issue for Taeyou, because chances are most of those non-attack skill units only put 2 buffs up to begin with. So you don't need to dispel all buffs. It's just now yeah, I can't even finish that statement because it doesn't make sense. It's like, what are you expecting them to have? Like, all these non-attack skills and to put, like, how many buffs up in one turn? I don't know. Whatever. Sure. Is he viable? You can try. If you have him, go for it. Build him. See what happens. I'm not going to sit here and tell you can't do whatever. Yeah, for real. Let's see. You think Aria's shield will be good or a Senya type buff? I don't think so. It's gonna determine how big the shield ends up getting. Really. I don't know why they did that to Straze. I didn't know Straze needed a buff. Anybody I checked with today didn't know Straze needed a buff. Not a single person that we've talked to said he needed a buff. Or thought he needed a buff. It's just because they prefer his value for one-shots, maybe? And that's why you're not seeing him in PvP, because he's such an expensive ML5? So... why? I mean, it's like, they just rather use him there because it makes their one-shot hunts so much more valuable. That's why they didn't use him in PvP, because they only had one. And it's not like you can get multiple imprints. I'm sure if you could come back and keep buying, I'm sure if you could come back and keep buying those imprints every time you pull a Straze, maybe that would change things and you'd see PvP Strazes, but you can't. So, I don't understand the Straze thing. I think Straze is going to one-shot so many units now. I mean, it's not going to change anything. He's going to still one-shot the same thing he did before. It's literally, he does the same thing he did. Now he just can't get his crap stripped and blown up. That's literally it. Are these accurate descriptions of... I will look at those later. But yeah, that's the 5-minute timer. We're going to wrap up here. If anybody gets a question in the next 10 seconds, I'll answer it. But yeah, this is a balance patch. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat stuff. I give you guys my honest opinion. If you want to go see Happy Super Hyped, I'm sure there's like 8 other content creators you've probably already thumbed up their videos and watched by now that, yeah, you can go watch them again and you can get your little head pat and all that good stuff. But I'm going to give it to you real here and tell you this is not the way they need to be handling things. If you want a good, healthy game, you got to start cracking and making some changes here, and they're not doing that. As far as that question, Coca-Cola, basically, in short, is no. It's just, I think it's, I don't know exactly. It's not the higher attack. It's just how quickly it ramps the difference between his attack and their attack. So we'll find out. All right, so that's going to take care of it for today. Twitch chat, go ahead and say goodbye to YouTube. Yeah, hit me up, share your opinions and all that stuff. You know, I would love to be able to sit here and be like, guys, there is some really awesome stuff here. We've got so many cool things coming. You know, there's all these great buffs, but we're not getting that. We're literally getting pointless changes in a tone-deaf balance team. We need some give and take here. And the only way we're going to get that give and take is if you, the community, actually start standing up and being vocal again. You cannot leave this just to Korea to fix your crap. You have to be just as threatening as they are. Non-violently threatening, but I mean just, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that. We need to have this stop. The more people that get vocal about it, the more likely you are to get change. And in this case, the development heads are the one that need to be gone. Their direction of how they're looking at the game is not healthy for the long term of what you're trying to do here. You also need to quit catering to one small group of people who complain about the game taking too long to do a fight. There are direct counters to everything, and you constantly, every time you do an update, you're slowly chipping away at that one counter, forcing only one playstyle to be viable. That's not healthy for the long term of any game, no matter who you look at. I would much rather you do balance patches every single 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. Slowly working on some of these units, massaging out some of their stuff. I don't care if it hurts the meta for that week. Your esport is crap right now, and you need to fix it so that it actually is really good. But the only way to do that is by consistently fixing things. And you're too afraid to do that. If you were not afraid to actually step in and tell your community to screw off for 5 seconds so that you can actually get a breath of fresh air to be able to make some actual hard changes, you could probably turn this around to something extraordinarily. But that's that. You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in the next one.